Morning broke gently over Hillcrest's estate Block C, where the rich slept under chilled air and soft duvets. But in the little servant annex behind the smart villa, Ruth Nkem Adeyemi was already awake. 5:30 a.m. as always. She moved with quiet purpose, the kind that does not need applause. Slim, dark skin, a beauty wrapped in simplicity. She cleaned like someone who believed peace was a language. Her bare feet glided over the marble floors, wiping away the footprints of people who never thanked her. Her eyes, sharp but soft, caught every detail. Not because she was a maid, but because she had a mind trained to observe the world. Each shirt she ironed perfectly, each document she arranged with care belonged to Barrister Adrian Cole Nwoko, the man who walked past her every morning without truly seeing her. Adrian descended the stairs in a navy suit, checking emails, face locked in corporate war mode. "Ruth," he said flatly. "Yes, sir." "Make sure my court shoes are ready, and iron a second shirt." "Yes, sir." "No good morning." No eye contact. It didn't hurt anymore, not on the outside. But every time someone treated her like furniture, something inside her heart curled up smaller. Later that morning, the entrance bell chimed like wealth announcing itself. Vanessa Omokachi, Adrian's on and off girlfriend, strutted in with perfume strong enough to declare territory. She saw Ruth, and her eyes narrowed with familiar contempt. "Ah, you again." Ruth bowed her head slightly. "Good morning, Ma." Vanessa scoffed. "When you open the door, open it well. Use your sense. Abby, is it only broom you know how to carry?" Ruth's silence was a shield she held tightly. Adrian watched. He heard. He said nothing. Not even a glance of support. Ruth returned to the kitchen, face calm, heart bruised. By evening, after the last pot was washed and the last tile gleamed, Ruth retreated to her tiny room behind the main house, a space smaller than her dreams, but big enough for her hope. She sat on her bed. Her back ached. Her feet throbbed. But her spirit whispered, "Endure." Her phone screen lit up. Joy, her younger sister, appeared, bright as sunshine. "Ruth." "Ha, you look tired. Who annoyed you today?" Ruth tried to laugh it away. "Just one of those days." Joy's eyes softened. "You are not just anybody, my sister. Life may bend you, but it cannot break you." Ruth looked at the wall, the one she stared at whenever she wondered if her life still mattered. Then she picked up her notebook and wrote one line. "Don't forget who you are even when nobody else sees it." The words glowed brighter than the bulb above her head. Outside, Licora City buzzed with noise and ambition. Inside, a quiet legend was still learning how to breathe. She closed her eyes with one truth beating in her heart. There is more for me than this. Sunday arrived like a quiet guest. Ruth woke up before the sun again, not because she loved chores, but because discipline is sometimes the only dignity the poor are allowed. She swept the veranda as the city stretched awake. Inside the mansion, Mama Bisi, the elderly cook, stirred beans and plantain on the stove. The aroma of home, but not for Ruth. Meanwhile, across Licora Island, Barrister Adrian Cole Nwoko sat in a glossy boardroom at Cole Nwoko Bello Attorneys. White walls, gold frames. Men who always felt important because the world told them so. "We celebrate 10 years next week," boomed Chief Raymond Bello, the firm's founding partner, stomach proud like his success. Adrian nodded, scrolling through emails. Already planning, calculating, conquering. In a corner, Vanessa Omokachi crossed her legs, eyes glued to her phone, pretending to belong in the world Adrian built. "Invite the big clients," Chief Bello said. "Judges, governors." He paused, smirk dancing across his lips. "Even invite the house girl," Vanessa added suddenly. Let her mingle. If she knows how. Laughter exploded. Oh, yes. Let the maid come, Chief Bello chuckled. Before she starts asking for small chops without invitation. Adrian smiled just slightly, the way powerful men do when they forget that every soul deserves respect. Nobody asked if Ruth would want to come. Nobody cared what she might feel. It was a trap wrapped in a joke. That evening, when Adrian returned home, Ruth greeted, "Welcome, sir." "Welcome, Ma." Adrian cleared his throat. "We're celebrating the firm's anniversary at Echo Hotel next Saturday." He paused as though weighing whether kindness was necessary. "You can come," he added, "if you know how to behave." Vanessa smirked, her perfume announcing her superiority before her words did. "And please," she said mockingly, "don't wear those plastic slippers." "Oh, it is not, I am just going to buy Maggie Place." Ruth stood still. Her face didn't break. Her heart almost did. She answered calmly, "Thank you, sir. I will consider it." She walked away, dignity in her footsteps, pain in her silence. Night settled. Sleep refused to stay. Her mind replayed the scene, laughter at her expense, boundaries crossed, worth questioned. By dawn, she made a decision. She would not allow shame to grow roots in her. She packed a small bag, took 2 buses and 1 Okada, and headed to the only person who reminded her that she mattered. Lacora University, Palmview Hostel. Joy opened the door, wrapper tied loosely, bread in hand. "Ruth, you didn't even tell me you were coming." Joy pulled her into a hug, the kind that melts the ice life builds around your heart. They sat on the tiny mattress back against the wall. Ruth told her everything. The invitation that wasn't an invitation. The humiliation wrapped as humor. Joy's eyes sparked fire. "No," she burst out. "You will not hide. You will not shrink. You will go, and you will shine." Ruth looked down. Her silence confessed her fear. Joy reached out, lifted Ruth's chin. "You paid my first school fee. You faced life when everyone abandoned us. You are a light, and nobody pushes light into a corner." Ruth blinked a tear, but also a spark. Joy leaned close and whispered, "When you return home, check the old NYSC bag under your bed. Everything you need to remember who you are is inside there." And for the first time that week, Ruth's heart warmed with possibility. She wasn't just enduring anymore. She was preparing. Ruth returned to Hillcrest Estate just before sunset. Her steps were steady, but her heart, it raced like a drum calling her back to destiny. The compound was quiet, the kind of quiet that comes when change is about to arrive. She entered her tiny servant annex, the room that held her tears and her dreams. She sat on the bed softly, staring at what Joy had mentioned. The old NYSC bag hidden beneath the dust of survival. Her hands trembled a little as she dragged it out. The zipper resisted, like it was protecting something sacred. With one breath, she opened it. A flood of memories rose like incense. Notebooks, faded ID cards, certificates with her full, beautiful name, Ruth Nkem Adeyemi, BA Mass Communication, First Class Honors. There it was. The life she temporarily paused to survive. Her fingers brushed another file. Aurum Literacy Initiative Project Report, Kaduna, Maduguri Zones, Field Coordinator, Adeyemi, Ruth Nkem. Suddenly flashback. 3 years earlier, under a mango tree in Kaduna, Ruth stood before girls, seated on mats, notebooks tiny but hopes enormous. "B is for book," Ruth said, holding up a flashcard. "What do we do with books?" "We read them," the girls shouted. And why do we read? Ruth asked, smiling. A timid girl raised her hand. So we can grow, Ruth clapped. Yes, because knowledge is the first step to freedom. She believed every word because she lived it. The NGO's funding ended, and life demanded bills and hospital payments for her father. That's when she left purpose behind and walked into survival. But here in her hands your past was calling her home. Tears filled her eyes, not of sadness, but remembrance. She saw the scarf she once tied proudly during literacy campaigns. Its green fabric reflected tomorrow, not yesterday. Then another item surfaced, a small journal titled, Dreams Don't Expire. She opened a page. When life presses you to the ground, kneel and gather strength. Her handwriting, her heart speaking to her future self. Ruth inhaled deeply. She stood up, placed the documents neatly on her bed, the bed of a maid who was born to be so much more. Outside, the sky turned gold and purple, a quiet coronation for a queen rediscovering her crown. Ruth whispered to herself, They think I am only a maid, but even stars hide during the day. Something shifted instantly. Her back straightened. Her gaze sharpened. She was no longer a girl who swallowed pain. She was a woman reclaiming purpose. The party was no longer a place of humiliation. It would be her reintroduction. And deep inside, a new fire lit. I will not go there to fit in. I will go there to remind myself I belong anywhere I step. With steady hand, she folded the green scarf and symbol of the destiny she once paused and placed it into her handbag. Tomorrow would be different. Because tonight, Ruth did not sleep burdened. She slept becoming. Saturday morning arrived like a heartbeat of possibility. Ruth stood before the small mirror in her servant annex, holding the green scarf from her NGO days, a symbol of every life she once changed. She wasn't anxious. She wasn't scared. Not anymore. Purpose had awakened. A soft knock. The door opened before she could speak. Let's get you ready, Joy declared, entering with the confidence of an army. Ruth blinked. Joy? How did you? I told you, Joy grinned. I will not let you shrink. Behind her, Mama Bisi stepped in slowly, wiping her hands on her wrapper. Her eyes widened as she saw Ruth, not in maid uniform, not with a bowed head, but standing tall like a destiny unfolding. Joy pulled out the dress she brought, a soft emerald gown. Simple, elegant. The kind of beauty that whispers power. No sequins, no noise, Joy said. You will not compete for attention. You will command it. Ruth held the gown. It felt like a future she once feared to dream. Mama Bisi's voice cracked as she spoke. My daughter, the crown God hides today. He unveils tomorrow for the world to bow. She placed her warm palms over Ruth's hands and prayed, Where they expect your shame, may God plant your glory. Where they look down on you, may God raise you. Ruth's eyes glistened. This wasn't just a dress. This was a declaration. The transformation began. Her natural hair, combed, moisturized, gathered into a clean, sleek bun. Her face, barely touched by makeup, still radiant. Her posture unbent, unashamed. The emerald gown flowed over her gently, like grace wrapping a warrior. When she stepped out of the bathroom fully dressed, Joy froze. So did Mama Bisi. You look like a woman who owns the ground she walks on, Joy whispered. Mama Bisi nodded slowly, tears soft behind her smile. You were never meant to serve tiles, she said. You were meant to stand upon stages. Ruth tightened her silver bracelet. the only jewelry she owned, yet suddenly it looked like royalty. "Are you ready?" Joy asked. Ruth breathed in the kind of inhale that gathers courage. "Yes," she said, voice calm like a promise. "I am ready to be seen." As the taxi drove out of Hillcrest Estate, Lagos danced with life, Okadas zipping, horns shouting, the sun bold in the sky. Ruth wasn't just going to a party. She wasn't walking into mockery. She wasn't stepping into their world. She was stepping back into her own. With each mile toward Echo Hotel Grand Hall, her heart repeated one truth. I am not here to beg for space. I am here because I belong. The city didn't know it yet, but tonight a maid would walk into a hall full of giants and become the tallest one there. The taxi rolled to a smooth stop before Echo Hotel Grand Hall, gold lights gleaming, luxury purring like an expensive engine. Inside, the celebration had begun. A live band played soft jazz. Men in agbadas laughed loudly. Women in designer gowns moved like they owned the night. It was the kind of room where people didn't just enter, they announced themselves. The glass doors slid open, and Ruth walked in. Not loud, not timid, just present like Grace had learned how to walk. Her emerald gown flowed like a calm sea, her posture elegant, her eyes focused. No wobble, no doubt. She took one step, 2, 3. Conversations thinned. Laughter paused. Heads turned drawn not by glitter, but by dignity. A whisper moved through the hall. Who is she? Which dignitary invited her? Maybe she's a partner's wife. Nobody guessed housemaid. From across the room, Vanessa Omokachi froze mid-laugh. Her eyebrow arched in disbelief. No wrapper. No cheap sandals. No embarrassment. Just a woman walking like God himself opened the door for her. David, standing near the stage, looked up. He blinked once, then again. Ruth? His heart stumbled, caught between shock and something he didn't want to name. He had prepared his mind for a mess, a joke, a lesson. Instead, he was witnessing glory disguised as simplicity. Vanessa's heels clapped angrily on the tiles as she marched toward Ruth. "Excuse me?" she hissed, lips stretched into a fake smile. "This is not the kitchen." Ruth smiled warm, effortless, unshaken. "Yes, madam. That's why I dressed for the hall." The insult flipped. Grace had answered fire without burning. A few people nearby gasped softly, smiling behind their glasses. Vanessa sputtered, but before her tongue could find another arrow, a commanding voice approached. "Good evening, young lady," said Chief Raymond Bello, his eyes evaluating with new respect. "Which partner are you here with?" he asked. Ruth bowed her head slightly. "I work with Mr. Kolnwoko." "Oh?" Chief Bello's brows lifted. "You are his, assistant?" Ruth's smile deepened. "I help keep his documents organized. Sometimes I read through the case notes." She paused and added gently, "Especially the community dispute resolutions." Chief Bello blinked impressed. Vanessa's eyes widened, threatened. David arrived at that moment, still staring at Ruth like she had shifted the earth under his feet. He opened his mouth to speak, but was interrupted by an unexpected silence. The main doors opened again. A ripple went through the room. Chief Pierre Okoro, respected worldwide for humanitarian leadership, walked in with calm authority. Then his eyes landed on Ruth. He stopped. Recognition. Then joy lit up his face. "Ruth? Ruth Nkem Adeyemi? From the Aram Literacy Initiative?" The room turned sharply. Every eye now on her. Ruth inhaled steady. "Yes, sir," she replied softly. That was me. Chief Okoro moved closer, thrilled. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced loudly, "this young woman changed the future of over 700 children in the north of this country." Gasps. Phones lifted. People whispered. "She speaks 7 languages, built bridges between cultures, and wrote some of the best field reports we ever submitted to the United Nations." Oh, Ruth's heart pounded. Not from fear, but identity. Vanessa looked like her world had cracked. David looked like his had just begun. Ruth didn't shrink. She didn't apologize. She simply stood, as who she truly was. Not a maid, not a shadow, and not a joke. A light the world had tried to hide. And now, finally, the world could see her shine. Echo Hotel's Grand Hall was no longer celebrating the law firm's anniversary. It was celebrating Ruth. Phones angled toward her. Conversations shifted in her direction. Respect the kind that cannot be bought filled the air around her. And she stood with the grace of someone who knows. Elevation is sweeter when it surprises everyone who doubted you. Chief Pierre Okoro remained beside her, smiling proudly. "I always wondered what happened to you after the funding ended," he said. "The world still needs your voice, Ruth." Ruth nodded, heart steady. "I'm still here, sir, just in a different chapter." He placed a warm hand over hers. "Then let's turn the page." Nearby, and David was silent, face unreadable, mind overwhelmed. He had lived in the same house as a national asset, and never looked close enough to see her shine. Vanessa, however, was burning quietly. Her nails dug into her palm. Her carefully curated superiority was cracking in public. She forced a laugh, stepping into the circle. "Well, isn't this cute?" she sneered. "So the maid can talk big grammar. Great." Chief Okoro turned slowly toward her. "And who are you?" he asked. A slap delivered without a hand. Guests hid chuckles behind wine glasses. Vanessa's lips twitched. I'm Adrian's companion." "Assistant," Chief Bello chimed in loudly, mischief in his smirk. More laughter. Vanessa swallowed humiliation. But Ruth's heart, too kind for revenge, stepped forward. "She is someone important to the firm," Ruth said softly. Voice strong, eyes kind. A hush. Even Vanessa looked stunned. "Respect," Ruth added gently, "should not depend on a job title." Vanessa froze, and for a moment regret flickered behind her pride. David stared at Ruth, realization finally settling. She wasn't just a better woman. She was a better human being. The program continued. Ruth did not push herself forward, but fate kept pushing her anyway. Chief Bello introduced her to judges, foreign delegates, ambassadors. They asked questions. She answered with clarity and calm brilliance. "She has presence," one partner whispered. "She has leadership," another replied. David listened as praises wrapped around her like a mantle. And something new, something dangerous, moved in his chest. Admiration. Not the admiration of a boss for his staff, but a man seeing a woman who could challenge him and change him. Later, when the band slowed into soft high-life music, David finally walked up to her. For the first time in their entire shared existence, he looked her directly in the eyes. "Ruth," he said quietly, "I owe you an apology." She turned calm but steady. "For what, sir?" "For not seeing who you really are." Her silence spoke more than any reply. She didn't offer him comfort. She simply allowed him to feel the weight of his blind privilege. Before he could say another word, a scream pierced the air. Gasps. Heads whipped toward the sound. Vanessa's face twisted in jealousy. had tripped while storming off, sending her drink splashing across her expensive gown. Humiliation complete. People rushed toward her, but David remained frozen, torn between helping Vanessa and reaching for Ruth. In the quiet that followed chaos, Ruth simply stepped back, standing near a pillar, dignified, serene. A queen who didn't need a throne to rule. Tonight didn't just reveal who she was, it revealed who everyone else truly was. And destiny was only getting started. The night's chaos softened into music again, but something had shifted permanently. No one returned to their old conversations. Every gaze kept drifting back to the woman in the emerald gown, the woman the world once whispered beneath. Ruth. Chief Pierre Okoro waved to a hostess and leaned closer to Ruth. "I want to show you something," he said. They walked to a quiet corner decorated with photographs, moments frozen from the Foundation's projects, girls learning under battered classrooms, mothers smiling with new books, communities rising one story at a time. Ruth stared at the images, her own past reflected back in strangers' hope. "You are one of our best," Chief Okoro said warmly. "Your reports had heart. Not many leaders understand the people they serve." Ruth's voice trembled softly. "Thank you, sir. I just wanted them to have a chance." He nodded. "And that is why I need you back." Ruth blinked. "The Foundation?" "Our Northern Expansion project reopens next quarter," he continued, "and I want you as regional communications lead." Ruth's heart stopped, then raced. "Led?" The kind of position she dreamed of before life demanded a detour. But fear whispered, "What if I fail? What if I embarrass myself again?" She inhaled the breath of someone choosing courage. "I would be honored, sir," she said. Chief Okoro smiled like someone witnessing destiny unfold. "You begin with a short presentation next month," he added. "Talk about your field experience. Inspire our donors." A presentation. In a room full of leaders. A stage where she belonged. Ruth nodded another step out of the shadows. Meanwhile, Vanessa, fuming in a corner as staff dabbed her ruined gown, glared across the hall at Ruth. Her humiliation tonight wasn't just accidental, it was symbolic. Ruth's rise, Vanessa's fall. And jealousy, when wounded, becomes dangerous. "Mark my words," Vanessa muttered. "I will not lose because of that house girl." David found Chief Bello laughing near the champagne stand. "She's something else, that girl," Bello said. "A woman like that lifts a man. Not the other way around." David's throat tightened. He knew. He had been blind. To someone who could see more clearly than anyone. "Do you think I've treated her unfairly?" David asked quietly. Chief Bello chuckled. "You? You ignored a diamond while polishing glass." The truth hit David square in the chest. As the event wound down, David finally approached Ruth again. She turned, calm but poised. "Ruth," he began, more human than before, "if you ever need support with your new role—" She raised a polite hand slightly. "That's kind, sir," she said with soft strength. "But I've learned to walk without a hand to hold." David swallowed hard, both admiration and regret burning inside him. Ruth turned away, heading toward the exit. But before she left, she glanced back just once, not for him, but for closure. The hall that once intended to humiliate her had instead crowned her with honor. She stepped into the night where city lights danced against the sky. Ruth Nkem Adeyemi, the maid who was more, was becoming unstoppable. The weeks that followed the Echo Hotel event became a quiet whirlwind. Each morning still began at 5:30 a.m., Ruth swept floors, arranged files, served meals, but now she walked with an invisible crown. Respect didn't make her proud, it made her grateful. And Adrian noticed everything. He noticed how the house felt warmer when she smiled. He noticed how she carried dignity like a language. He noticed that silence wasn't weakness, it was depth. Vanessa noticed too. But where admiration grows love, jealousy grows destruction. She barged into the house one afternoon, red nails pointed like weapons. "So you think you can replace me?" she spat at Ruth. "You think a cheap dress makes you better?" Ruth simply looked at her, calm as always. "I don't want to replace anyone," she said softly. "I just want the chance to become who God made me to be." Those words sliced deeper than any insult. Later that evening, Vanessa confronted Adrian. "You need to put that maid back in her place," she snapped. Adrian exhaled, tired of the war inside her heart. "No," he replied firmly. "She's already where she belongs. We are the ones who misjudged her." Vanessa's rage erupted. "Then choose, me or the maid." Adrian didn't hesitate. "Ruth doesn't need to be chosen. She earned her place." Vanessa stormed out, her chapter closing in anger. The next morning, Ruth returned from the market to find Adrian waiting in the living room. "May I speak with you?" he asked, polite, respectful, different. They sat. Adrian took a breath, and the kind a man takes when he wants to unlearn pride. "I'm sorry," he said, "for every moment I didn't see you, for every time I allowed you to be disrespected, and for thinking your value depended on my notice." Ruth stared at him, surprised at the humility she never expected. She smiled gently. "We all grow," she replied. "Some of us grow in silence, so that our roots are strong when life finally calls us to stand." Adrian's eyes glimmered, admiration awakened, but carefully guarded. "I don't want you to work here forever," he said. "I want to help you step fully into your purpose." Ruth nodded slowly. "I appreciate that, sir. But please let me rise by the strength God put in me." He smiled, understanding. "Then allow me to be a witness," he said softly. A week later, Ruth walked into the Aurum Foundation headquarters, officially starting her role as regional communications lead. Her name printed on the office door. Her work valued. Her calling restored. As she entered the boardroom for her first meeting, the donors stood and applauded. Not because she was rich, not because she was powerful, but because she never let life steal her worth. That night, back in Hillcrest Estate, Ruth stood outside under the stars. Mama BC joined her quietly. "You see?" she smiled. "When God decides, even walls become doors." Ruth looked toward the sky, taut, eyes shining with gratitude. "I used to ask God why he put me in that house," she whispered. "And now?" Mama BC asked. Ruth breathed deeply. "Now I understand." She smiled. Steady, humbled, unstoppable. "He hid me in the lowest place, so that when I rise, no one will doubt who lifted me." The stars twinkled like applause from heaven, and Ruth, once dismissed as a nobody, stepped fully into the truth she had written long ago. Dreams don't expire. Tonight the light stayed on, and she was no longer afraid to shine.